rampant because siwezi kupea pesa na ukose kunipea pesa. So it's a give and take relationship. So unless we stop that, we are going to even now reach in a position where we are seeing blatantly that money is the only thing that is going to talk in those leadership positions. And we have some sort of hope, like he was asking, in the next coming election. Yes and no. Let me be a bit political here. So the first thing that I'm going to say is, if we look at the demos that we are having last year, so that is the Reject the Finance Bill demo, you could clearly see that there was some sort of level of consciousness that we had when it comes to political conversation. So how that looked like is we were able as young people to mobilize people and have discussion on the particular bill that was in concern. So what I liked about that is, kama kuna mtu mwenye hakuwa anajua what are we talking about when it comes to reject the finance bill, they were able to be sensitized and educated on it as a subject. So with that, we're able to pull in more and more young people. So yes, I do believe that there is a chance that now that people are very aggressive with the government, we will be able to now have at least young people who are very interested in politics without not having money. But no on the other side, because if we look at it, aggressiveness yenye tulikuwa now ya demos, partly there's still some, forgive me for the people who are old, I will say, there's still some mentality that is there with the old people who are saying, no, things are not supposed to be done like that, And then there's also that mentality, kama utupei pesa, we're not giving you access to this. So in retrospect, this also looks like us supporting one another and knowing that movement building doesn't end up with saying, no, we do not want this president on Twitter, social media, Instagram, and TikTok, but also showing up in real spaces like this. So that is my sentiment, and thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you very much, Karen. And just as a follow-up, there are a number of guys who said they do not know about any law that governs the use of money in our politics. I would like them to invite Derek, probably by way of just informing our listeners. One, do we have laws in Kenya that regulate the use of money? That is number one. But could you also highlight what, if there are those laws, which laws are these ones? Then the second question that I would like you to address yourself to, which institutions then are responsible to ensure that money is regulated in the country?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marcus. So I think I'll start with the history of the laws that we've had in Kenya to regulate campaign financing, because we've had these laws for a couple of years, but they fall under those categories of laws which we don't respect and we don't implement. The first time we as a country attempted to put in place laws which regulate how much money we use in campaigns was in 1974. At that time, we had an act called the National Assembly and Presidential Elections Act, and it was amended in 1974, and it introduced a section which provided that for one to be elected as a member of parliament, they could not use more than 40,000 shillings in their campaigns. You can imagine how far we've come. If the cap at that time in 1974 was only 40,000 shillings, and some members of parliament were arguing that that cap is too high. They even wanted it to be reduced. So in 1974, that is when we started, when the first time we as a country had a law to regulate the amount of money that we used to campaign. But unfortunately, there was a problem with that law. That law said that you would start counting after the primaries. After the party primaries, that is when you would start counting how much money you used. And you couldn't use more than 40,000. But at that time, we had a one-party state. So that means after the primaries, after the party primaries, there were no campaigns because it was only KANU. So after the primaries, you just wait for a couple of months. Then the Electoral Commission at that time will declare the winner. So we had a cap, but it operated, it was structured in a way that it was not operational under that regime. So from 1974 up to 1992, we had laws, but they couldn't be implemented. In 1992, we repealed the provision of a one-party state. Now we had a lot of parties. We had multi-party elections in Kenya. But interestingly, for some reason, everyone just chose to ignore that law. So we had multi-party elections. We had political campaigns after the primaries. Several parties had different candidates. So campaigns really kicked off at that time. And that is when we started seeing a lot of money being used in elections in Kenya. But that law was ignored, not implemented until 1997 when it was repealed. 1997. So from 1997, we didn't have any law anywhere regulating how much money we were supposed to use, candidates were supposed to use during campaigns. We went through a vacuum. Every subsequent election report and constitutional making process after that time attempted to address this issue. The first the CRCK, that is the Yashpal Gai Commission, talked about the importance of regulating the amount of money in our elections in its report, but it didn't go anywhere. Unfortunately, that draft was not successful. The committee of experts talked about it. Before that, the Kriegler report also talked about the negative impact of money in our elections. And in 2010, when we passed this new constitution, the committee of experts finally were able to put a clause in the constitution that required the IEBC to regulate the amount of money that candidates can use in a campaign. Remember, the key word is campaign, not elections. So, and it was even problematic to have this clause in the constitution because the first draft that the committee of experts did of the constitution, when it went to parliament, the parliamentarians removed that clause. But when it came back to the committee of experts, they put it back in, and that is what we voted for in the referendum and passed that new constitution in 2010. So as we speak, we have a constitutional provision which requires the IEBC to regulate the amount of money that candidates can use in a campaign. So that is 2010. Finally, we have something, a good law in the constitution. The next elections came in 2013. You remember we passed the constitution in 2010, but the elections were in 2013, right? So in 2013, we have a constitutional provision that requires IEBC to come up with these regulations. But the constitution also required Parliament to pass elaborative laws on how that was going to be effected. In 2012, a draft Campaign Finance Act was tabled before Parliament, but unfortunately, it did not pass. So when we went to the Constitution in 2013, the only thing we had was that constitutional provision, but nothing else. So the 2013 elections happened without any concrete legal framework. After 2013, one of the first laws that Parliament passed was a law called the Election Campaign Finance Act, which we have up to date. And that law was passed, and it was a very detailed legislation. It provided how IEBC was supposed to come up with the regulations on how much was supposed to be spent. But for some reason, I think, I don't know whether IEBC forgot about it, but they sat on it up to very close to the election, the next election, which were in 2017. So they sat on it up to 2016, drafted regulations very quickly, but those regulations were challenged in court. ODM went to court to say that there was no public participation and a lot of things. And finally, those regulations, when they went to Parliament, Parliament said, no, there was a lot that was not done properly in these regulations. So what we are going to do as Parliament, number one, we will reject those regulations. And number two, they suspended a provision of the Act which required those regulations to be put in place. So that is the 2017 elections. Now, the Act has been suspended, the regulations have been rejected, and the campaigns are here. So the country goes through another cycle without any laws in place. That is 2017. But that suspension was only supposed to serve for a period for 1 year. So after the 2017 elections, the suspension lapsed. So getting into 2018, now we have the Act, we have IBC in place, also required to come up with regulations for the 2022 elections. And they did that in 2021. They came up with the regulations. The law actually requires the regulations must go to Parliament for them to be approved. So the regulations went to Parliament. Again, Parliament rejected the regulations. So we went through the 2022 elections again without the regulations. So that is where we are at Marcus. Right now we have a law. The law requires IBC to come up with regulations. IBC has been trying to come up with regulations. They do, but the same Parliament which passed that law also rejects the regulations. So that is where we are at right now. We hope that in these elections, we will have the regulations in place. We will have a sober Parliament that will adopt the regulations, and at least we will have the regulations on time. Thank you.
Very well. So, guys, I hope you've seen the story, the history, isn't it? Mwelewa story. History, these laws. So we have, it speaks of 1974, and then we go all the way to 2010, all the way to 2012, to where we are now in 2025. There is a law now, but that law has not been implemented because of a number of court cases and Parliament suspending certain provisions in that law. So then, do we then really need to regulate money in our politics? Where is the problem, guys? And so, Kawibe, even as you come in now, one of the things I would like you to focus on is to the question, do we really need to regulate money in our politics? Because you've seen the history that Derek has outlined. So we move, so this is we've had 3 elections without operationalizing this law. And maybe a 4th election in 2027 without, I mean, do we have any guarantee that we'll have this law in place? So the question I would like you to address yourself to is, do we really need to regulate money in our elections? Is there any country in Africa, for example, that has successfully regulated, even the West, I mean, even the biggest democracies in Africa, have they succeeded in regulating money in our politics? Over to you, Kawibe.
Thank you very much. I think the story that Derek has given us is the story from the old adage of taking a goat to the jurisdiction of a court of hyenas. At the possibility of the goat getting justice, when it is hyenas that are deciding how the goat's life, whether it should end or not, is 0. So if we are passing a regulation, and one of the things that we did with the Constitution in 2010 was to say, can we have self-executing clauses in the Constitution? Which means self-executing clauses means that a clause, because it exists in the Constitution, therefore should be automatically enforced. But what Parliament did with the Committee of Experts draft is to subject every provision of the Constitution, or most of the provisions that touch on people, to parliamentary legislation. So Parliament is supposed to create a law to regulate how Parliament, or how getting to Parliament will be, because that is how they regulate then how somebody becomes an MP, and they will not do it. So the belief, the fact that a 74 law was repealed in 97, and that there was the IBC forgot, the language Derek used, forgot to do regulations, which is their mandate, for 5 years, and then did regulations and took them to Parliament, and they were rejected, is a vicious circle that we will witness. So basically, the question we should ask, Marcus, in my view, is, do we want to have our politics controlled by the people who benefit from politics? Do we want MPs to be the ones who say this law should pass? Now this one we can use. Because if that's what we want, we'll never get it. And I tell you for a fact that we've witnessed, I don't know whether those of you on TikTok and social media have seen a photo of the political honchos in 1992, the people who were key political players in 1992, in a photo, in one photo. They are the same ones in key political players this time around. So what has happened from 1992 up to now? A dance. We have been dancing around ourselves because you get a regulation, because the regulation says, that regulation of political financing, what it basically says is, it doesn't matter whether you have 100 billion or you have 100,000. The people should be able to assess your leadership skills, not because of how you influence their thinking, but because of how astute you are as a leader. Now that's what they have removed. So money has become a factor. And if you ask young people, and I heard Karen speak, is that the first thing that happens is a bliss. You know, people go to campaigns with a bliss. You go to a market, a rural market with an helicopter. The fact of you coming with an helicopter mobilizes the whole market. You know how much an helicopter is an hour? It's about 300,000. So if you go there with your rickety vehicle with loudspeakers above you and you say, people, let's meet in this particular venue, and I come with an helicopter, I demobilize your campaign. So nobody will hear what you are saying. That is why people do not want that regulations. People who are in parliament now, and that is why corruption, unfortunately in this country, has become official. Everybody is getting into power to get access to resources, because it is those resources that they'll use to campaign, to convince people. So it is what money does in the campaign trail that is important. And this kind of money we are talking about is the money that therefore mobilizes for you the bliss, the media campaigns and all that, because politics is about perception. If you are perceived to be active, to be engaged, to be with the people, then the likelihood of people agreeing with your political policies is very high. And that is the bargain that there is. So, as a matter of fact, if we expect IEBC to develop regulations and then we expect Parliament to pass those regulations, we are wasting our time. We are wasting our time. Let's be candid. So we have to decide, do we want to change our politics? That is the decision we have to make. If we want to change our politics, the young people of this country showed us last year how the politics need to be changed. Okay? The French people, the Huguenots in the French population in 1790 did the French Revolution. And what that means is that everybody who is at top, everybody who is a political bigwig, everybody who is moneyed, was removed by force. Because that is the only way that you can reorder society. If you don't reorder it that way, then it won't happen. If you look at the example of the Sudan and even in Egypt, it's called what? The revolution that was happening in the north is called the Arab Spring, and then it went on to Sudan. The only problem in those areas was that the military interfered with people processes, and therefore took over and reordered governance. But at least a big percentage of the people who were holding political power had to step aside or were forced to step aside. The only way in this country, and this can go on record, the only way to organize the politics of this country and to make sure that you remove the hyenas from the court of politics is by closing that court. Because when you go to parliament, they will not pass a law that regulates them. IEBC, which is appointed by the same political interest, will not do regulations, because even if they do anyway, they take to parliament, they will be rejected. So we have to make a decision as a country. Do we want to have the same people decide who becomes the same politician? So that's what they do. it's a fact. We know it that there are some parties in certain regions, unfortunately, when you get a nomination, you will automatically get elected. True or false? And the political leaders will come and campaign for you. So we do not have leaders per se, except just a few numbers, Omtata here, another one there, but everybody else is decided by the political alignments. So I think we need to stop this habit of cheating ourselves that we can have a law, and Derek has demonstrated to us, that a law that will help us change our politics. No. There is no constitution in this Africa, except maybe the South African one a bit, which is more radical and more pro-people than ours. Has it been implemented? Only about 25% has been implemented. Why? The politicians don't want it to be implemented. Why? Because Article 43 says, for example, every citizen must have food of adequate quantities and quality. What does that mean? If I am in the business of leadership and I have access to the money, I give you money for food, ensure everybody has food, it will mean I remain with nothing. So what's the best thing? Don't implement it. The same thing talks about quality health. What do we have now? SHIF or whatever, that one. And people are saying it's not working. Okay, the government is saying it's working. But the people who are the consumers are saying it's not working. And last week or this week, we were told even the government does not control, does not control the infrastructure of SHASHI. So who is controlling it? It is the people who will come to ask for electoral seats. And when they get that 25% of every money that you contribute, the same thing with housing and all that. So basically these are schemes of getting money into select people. Because Marcus, let me tell you without flinching an eyelid, you cannot get a cut of the SHA money, SHIF money. You cannot get a cut of the housing project money. Who are you? So when you go to your constituency to campaign, the person in your constituency who has got that access will definitely come with an helicopter, and your party and your politics will die that same day. That is true. Right? So we need to make a decision as a country. If we want to reorganize our politics, we must remove the discussion from the court that is being run by hyenas, because we are goats and we cannot get justice from these people. Thank you.
Right. So there's something Kawive is saying, guys, and I hope you've captured it. He says that for the goat to get justice, then we need to remove the hyenas from that court. But here is the challenge. Here is the question for the audience. Mama there said from Samburu that she is herself a testimony of a leader who got elected without bribing her way into leadership. But there is also this question of, in this case, Kawive, and that's why I'm going to ask Sam to come in shortly. In our country, laws are made by parliament, isn't it? They are members of parliament. They have key roles, 3 key roles: legislative function, oversight function, and representative function. Now, you are taking a law or a regulation to parliament, to politicians, who, as Kawive is saying, have a big interest in the same law. So, Kawive is saying, let us remove the hyenas from that court. Now, I'll come back to you, the audience, and tell us how is it possible. And he's given examples in other countries, Arab Spring, for example, what the youth did last year that led to the withdrawal of the Finance 2024 Act. Sam, from where you sit, where do you think is taking us back? Because, the example of, while I'm recognizing what the late from Samburu said, but I'm seated here, I'm in my village in Dewa constituency. I'm not so sure whether we have even seen an helicopter. Maybe they have. But even a number of us in Nairobi here, we have not been very close to helicopters. So in my village, Thursday, is a market day. So I'm there with my van or my piki or my tuk-tuk with this big PA telling, oh, Marcus wants to change your lives. Don't look at money, look at me, the things I've done before. You know, I own that forest that is helping clean the water, so you're drinking clean water because of me. And then Derek, who has been in the US for the last 20 years, comes the same area where I'm campaigning with my tuk-tuks with a helicopter. Chances are very high that everybody will leave, as Kawi said, they will campaign me to go and see the helicopter, isn't it? And leave me there with my tuk-tuks. Now, how do you then find a balance? Where is the problem? I mean, should we tell Derek not to use his tuk-tuk in this instance? Helicopter. Or should we tell people not to go and have a look at what Derek is doing? So where is my question there is, is there a problem? Where is the problem, if there is, in terms of me using tuk-tuk, Derek using helicopter, and the people getting attracted to where the helicopter is? Because that is a big challenge. I remember the hyena goat story. How then do you get out the hyenas in a context where the laws of that land require that the goat must appear before the hyenas?
Thank you, Marcus. That's a tough one. But I think for me, and picking it from where Kawive has stopped, I think the biggest problem is us. And I think looking at even our politics and the examples that have been given, and the fact that we are the majority, but less empowered, as much as poverty is a question. But I think the problem is with us. Gen Zs have shown us that we can do things differently. The challenge we are having now is accepting that things can be done differently. And I think that is where we need to start. The Gen Zs last year showed us that things can be done differently. And I want to show you just how deep-rooted the challenge is, because you started by asking a number of questions, including our understanding of the laws that are there, but even our understanding, and even the MC was trying to interact with a number of the audience on how their perception of money and politics. And what we have, or majority of the feedback we were getting, is that take the money and then make a decision as an individual, as the burnout requires you. But now, we need to see the bigger picture in taking the money to be able to change things as they are. By the fact that the money you are taking is the same money we are having a conversation here on how it's being acquired. So unless we get to understand that us taking up the money is also a problem, we will still have that problem. In that, these politicians are looking for this money. They are getting themselves involved in corruption. They are going against, or they are not supporting the passing of legislations and the regulations, simply because they know they will come and overshadow you when you're going back there, or they come with their helicopters. But for us, we are saying we take the money and go and make a wise decision. But it's the same money that is being stolen, and it has an impact on us. So we need to start by changing our perception. I think that is where we need to start. First, knowing what impact this whole conversation around campaign financing, because you'd ask majority of us and even the audience, when we are talking about the campaign financing and the money in politics, they are only thinking about maybe the example we are giving, them coming with the helicopters, them stealing. But the impact of that stolen money on our lives, the fact that you are not getting basic things, the fact that they are putting hindrances into most of the things that are supposed to make our lives better, it's still not relatable to majority of us. So I think for me, that is where we need to start first in terms of changing our perception, and also accepting to do things differently from citizens' perspective. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that that makes it very, very interesting. And that, of course, I take the money from you, because someone has also argued that, listen, the reason why I won't take, I won't refuse to take the money is because I know the money you are giving me is my money. So like I was saying, you know, assuming this shashi thing, there are guys who are benefiting from that technology, from that infrastructure. They have a percentage that goes to them. So someone argues, I know the money, because you can't not give me your money, your ad and cash. Because I was looking at some of the, if you look at, there was a study that was done for the 2022 election by Professor Karuti, Kanyinga, and Tom Boyer. And if you look at some of the figures, they were saying there that for you to win, for example, the Senate seat, one required 39 million shillings. I even saw recently, and by the way, before I forget, we are live on K24 and Kameme, is it Kameme TV or Kameme FM? Kameme TV, yeah. So just for information. And also, I've been asked that please remove your phones, take photos of ourselves, of yourselves, and tweet and retweet and post on the social media so that people know what we are doing here. So, I mean, guys, so you charge, I mean, I used 39 million shillings to get elected to the Senate. Then people already know how much a senator earns. And if you do the mathematics, between the first year to the last year of my Senate, I won't have made this amount of money. So I went to the Senate for what purpose? To really serve the people at my own expenses. Then someone said, recently the president gave out 20 million shillings. So someone actually calculated the president's salary. I mean, someone has done the mathematics since he became president and the kinds of money he has given. His money per month is 1.2 or 1.5, thereabout. Multiply it by 5 years, get the amount of money that the president should earn at the end of his term, and the donations that he gives every week is quite a big discord.
Selling chicken.
And from his business, as I'm told. Now, this is the question, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why I come back to Derek. Pesa ni yangu. The money is mine. Don't ask me how I get it. The money is mine. I mean, I understand that your laws tell me that we need to regulate. We need to check the influence of money in our politics. We all agree in this meeting here today that the more money you have, the more chances at getting elected you become, isn't it? That's the truth, isn't it? I mean, if guys, even here, if one of the politicians, or if, let's say Sonko, you've heard that Sonko is in the other tent dishing out money. I can tell you this tent will be vacant. There's something about money and how it makes us go crazy. So the money is mine. The money is mine. Why do you force me? Why do you want to regulate my money? Why do you want me to tell you where I got my money from? Is it really your concern? Is it really your business? And maybe that's why probably why there is lack of political will. That's why the hyenas in that court are refusing to dispense justice to the court, namely ourselves, because they're saying the money is mine. I never come to ask you where you got your money. When you come to pay the school fees for your children, the principal never asks you where you get this money from. But me, when I come to you to campaign and I want to facilitate you, you want to regulate my money. Is there a discord in terms of self-disclosure? Should I just tell you, if you have to regulate, maybe I should just tell you, I have 40 million and this is how I'm going to use it or thereabout. So where is the problem? Why must I tell you?
The short answer is because you're a public officer and everything you do is our business. And you've given some very good tabulations on how much an elected official gets over the period they are in office and how much they used to campaign. So if really they are spending more than how much they get into office, then we need to know where they are getting that money from, so that when they do their oversight functions, their representative when they do their oversight functions, we need to know who are they oversighting. When they do their representative functions, we need to know who they are representing. Is it us, the people who voted them, or the people who financed them to get into that office? And even in their legislative side, we've seen a lot of lobbying from businesses. Businesses are very good at lobbying. So if they finance an election, then when it comes to legislation, we will be seeing a lot of skewed laws which do not favor the citizens, but favor the business interests and those people who supported the elections. Disclosure is a very good thing, and actually political parties are required to disclose their sources of income. But the problem is the law requires only political parties, not candidates. Yet a lot of campaigns happen outside the political party. In Kenya, actually candidates are the ones who support a political party. But when it comes to campaigns, unless you are a presidential candidate, there is very little support you get from a political party. So even if the political party was to fully comply with the provisions and declare how much money they got and they spent in the campaigns, then it would only be tied to the presidential elections and maybe strategy making, development of what are these political manifestos, maybe media. Very little of it will actually reflect. So the true picture of disclosures will not be accurate. But we have always known where some of these people get their money. In 2022, you remember when ODM was, when they did their fundraiser, you remember the 1 million a shilling per plate? So we know. And interestingly, they say they had exceeded expectations. Can you imagine doing a fundraising and exceed expectations for a presidential campaign? So we know. Some time back, Honorable Karua said that she had received money from BAT. I think it was around 10 years ago, and the money was supposed to be used in the campaigns. We saw Jubilee also did their fundraiser in the other elections. So there are these known sources of income which we don't have issues with. They are within the law. We know that you held a fundraiser, people paid 1 million shillings for a plate. That is good money. The problem is this money which is dirty money. We've seen some people who have gone to campaigns, but before they went, we saw a lot of wash videos. Someone with a bunch of USD with shady deals. We don't know where you are getting this money from, and you want to use it to campaign. So the biggest issue is that money, which we are not clear where it comes from. Fundraising is not a bad thing, but you have to fundraise within the structures and the limits of the law, and the money has to be good money. I wanted to, it has disappeared. I will revisit. But basically, it's disclosure is a good thing. Yes. So we've seen in a lot of countries which have a model campaign financing practices, and I use the word practices very intentionally. If you look at some of the Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Denmark, they are very good practices in terms of campaign financing. After the elections or campaigns, everyone always knows this candidate spent this amount of money and this is where they got them. But they are very quote-unquote weak laws. So they don't have elaborate laws on where you should get your money, where you should report, and how much you should spend. But in practice, there is a lot of transparency and accountability from every candidate to declare how much they spend, and every voter to demand from the candidates where they got their money. So the media plays a very big role in monitoring. The citizenship, the voters also demand a lot of transparency and accountability, and even the candidates themselves, they do a lot of self oversight. If candidate A will oversight where candidate B is getting their money. So if you look at the legal framework of these countries, you will find nothing. But countries like Kenya, which have the constitution, the act, the regulations, the IBC, the EACC, and all these institutions which have a role to play, then you will find that it's very difficult to implement. So yes, as you said, Marcus, it could be a people issue. The demand side is also there. The demand side is what drives the supply side. We need to reflect internally, we as voters, we as the ones who facilitate all this money in politics, we are the ones who should have a deeper, we also have a, I don't want to say that it's entirely on us, but we have the responsibility to also do internal reflections. So yes, Marcus, I'll leave it at that. Disclosures are a good thing. You can spend your money the way you want it, but it has to come from a clean source, one which you are confident enough to say, I use this money from fundraising from my own account, so that when we go to Parliament, we know you are representing the voter and not a corporate which got you into that office. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Derek. I think that brings us then to the second leg of our discussion. So, as the audience, I think you can now clearly see what is coming out. A number of things are coming out. One, that there is a role that citizens have to play in terms of demanding. In fact, sometimes they will tell you, I think was it Wetangula some years back, spoke about facilitation. So they tell you that, listen, I can't call guys to a meeting and I don't give them transport reimbursement. So they tell us, but listen, it is not us politicians. It is the people that demand this of us. So we need to ask ourselves, as Derek has said, and also as Sam had said earlier on, is the problem of money and the negative effects of dirty money a reflection of the dirt that we are as a people? Because you will call people here in a meeting, tell them, you guys, I want to help you change the law. Now, people talk about Okia Mutata, for example. I'm not so sure if Kenya is ready to really, the way we have accustomed ourselves. So you have someone who goes to a meeting, donates 20 million. Then you have a candidate B who tells you, me, I will not give you money, but I will change your lives. I will ensure that she works. I will ensure that whatever it is works. But no, but the needs that we met now. So I'll give you 20 million. How many kids need bursary in this? So they tell you, we have 20 kids. Give me, then they, please, Hawa, bring my checkbook. And andika checkbook, say the check. Kawive will tell you, me please, I can't give the check right now. But can you just please elect me? If you elect me, I will then ensure that you don't need to pay. So most Kenyans say, no, listen, Kawive, hiyo yako ya kusema kesho, they say, in fact, they remind kusema kesho, ni muongo. So I would rather go with Derek, who is writing for me the check now. So then the question we ask ourselves then is the role of the citizens in terms of demand and supply. Now, when Kawive speaks about removing the hyenas, what if the goat is the problem? What if the goat is the problem? Yes, Kawive.
The contestation is about the goat being eaten. So the goat cannot be a problem.
But the goat is a food.
Yes. And that's why they are contesting. The hyenas are deciding how to eat the goat. So the goat is not the problem. And I hold a firm belief that let us not gaslight Kenyans. Let us look at Kenyans from the perspective of the reality. These are people who have not seen a good road for 10 years. There are people whose children have not gone to school because they can't afford school fees. And some of them have dropped off. These are people whose parents or children have died because they could not access healthcare. These are people who are in the morning and in the afternoon looking for food, because if they don't look for food, they won't eat. So they have been, basically we've seen a collapse of essential social services. Now, if you do not have food, Marcus, if you have not eaten from morning, you will not be sitting here. You will be hustling to get food, isn't it? So that is the situation that we are looking at. If there was a good road, if there is water running in the tap, if there is medicine in hospitals, I can actually think straight. But when my mother died, as I watched her, then I can't think straight. You know, it is the kind of suffering that we go through every day that if you come, Markers, with $1 million shillings and you say, guys, mimi nataka kuwa whatever you want to become, and I have $1 million here, mnaona aje? I'll get money there, 10,000, I go and pay school fees, and I'll be like, actually, kama huyo jamaa angekuja, hii mtoto wangu angesoma. So I have even a social burden to come and, you know, kurudisha mkono. That is what is happening. So the only way to get Kenyans to think straight is to ensure that there is efficient provision of social services. That people are able to get food without getting through a politician. People are able to get to hospital without a politician coming in. People are able to pay for school fees without a politician coming in. Okay? People are able to have their lives in one piece. Then they are able to think straight. So the problem is not the goat. The problem is not Kenyans. The problem is that our taxes are being diverted to individual pockets. The problem is that the things that we elect governments to do are not being done. And therefore, we are not able to think straight. We are not able to, if you tell you think about good leadership. What does good leadership have to do with my child going to school? So I can't think about good leadership because I'm thinking about my child going to school. I can't think about, and when you find the kind of sycophants that we have in this country, sycophancy is about getting something from the person you are being a sycophant to. It's about getting a benefit. So if we do not sort that problem, if we cannot make our government work, and the people that we have elected continuously, and I gave this example of 1992 until now, same group of hyenas are the same ones that we have now. And this is 2022 to now is how many years? 30 years. This is 30 years later. The same people were calling shots, except those who have died, natural deaths, and some of them are buried in very expensive coffins. So except those who have died, everybody else is intact. Do we have a country? No, we don't have. We have a kakistocracy. Which finance bill was withdrawn? It was withdrawn one day. MPs were there, not MPs. Those who had been fired, like what was CSS. CSS were fired today. The next day, the same bill is brought back, the same one. And the same people who were fired are brought back. What is that? It's basically saying, you guys, even if you have a point, you are stupid, you can't control this. I am in control and I will do this. And that is what has been happening to us. We have been caught in a whirlwind, in a spinning wheel. And we are saying, how do we stop the wheel so that everybody now can focus on the important things? If we don't deal with that, the Kenyans are not the problem. Kenyans only suffer from vicious cycles of bad leadership and ensuring that the court, the parliament, the presidency, the executive is peopled by the same people who have got the same mentality of extract from Kenyans, make sure that they are pauperized, and then go and give them something small, then they align to vote for you, and then that's it. And if they don't vote for you, still they vote anyway. Okay? If they want popular people, destroy their popular people. If they want good leadership, get the good leaders out of the way. If their youth come out to say, we want this to work, kill them. Kill a few of them, 20, 100, like 60 were killed. And the protest ended. That is the kind of leadership that we have. It's not that we don't know what's right. It's that what is right has been convoluted, and as the control, it's like we have an electric fence around the leadership. So you can't get into that circle without switching off the power. And that is what Sudan did. That is what Bangladesh did the other day. People just coming out, can we switch the source of electricity so that we can be able to break into this circle. That's what the French Revolution did. That's what our young people wanted to do last year. And it's an option that we must think about.
Thank you very much, Kawive. So guys, then we have now to bring the discussion to yourselves. And I'd like someone to pass the mic. Yes, very well. So let's have the mics all over the place. So please feel free to weigh in the discussion. You can give your suggestions. The topic of discussion is money in our elections. Dirty money, dirty leadership. The issue is, do we regulate or should we not regulate? Please have your say. What are your thoughts? If you have a question, please address it to Reba. There is Sam, Kawive, and Derek are our panel members. So question, comments, suggestions is a people's dialogue session, and your feedback is quite important. Remember, we are live on K24 and Kameme. Over to you.
Thank you. My name is Meshach, and I come from the civil society, so I get clearly what Kawive is trying to say. But the question I would want us to also think about, has the civil society done any better than the politicians, the so-called hyenas? The reason why I would ask that question, because I feel it is very fundamental. Do civil society gather people and not pay their transport? Tell me one place where we gather people and we do not pay their transport. And when you mention some of the politicians say it is the people who demand, who taught the people that their transport must be paid whenever they gather if it is not the civil society? Because we started the whole game gathering people, giving them this, paying their transport and all that. And then they got used to anybody who gathers us, gives us transport money. Then civil society comes back to the podium and make reference on the politicians as the hyenas, and they are the better ones. Take, for example, and with no offense, this is the 7th edition of this dialogue. Who, between you and me, the people, how many of us knows how much has been spent on this dialogue, and what exactly has this dialogue changed for the 7 years it has been running every year? How much money has been spent? Because that is the same accountability we would want with the politicians out there. But the truth is, we need to regulate the kind of money that comes in our politics, because when the youth are speaking, they are talking about the burden they are carrying. It is very impossible to make a youth compete with older people who have gathered their money, God knows how, in the same field, and you want a young man or young woman here to run around the entire Nairobi in 17 constituencies and compete only on ideologies when the people have already gotten used to their transport being paid. So when we look practically from my end, when I look at this, I don't think the burden is only on the politician. Because I have lived in this country when a section or some people have said, we want our thief. Why do you think that thief is the problem? Have you not had people telling you that they want their thief? So it is a social behavior now. So if it is a social behavior, then where do we go from here? I think the problem, again, is the country has tried to legislate everything. We even want to legislate love. We want to legislate everything as a country, thinking that the law will rescue us from some of the dangers we are facing. But the problem is this: some of our laws, I'm not a lawyer, but the lawyers will tell us. Right now we are dealing with, because the so-called excess money in our election, the problem is not the excess money. The problem is where that money came from. Some of them are our taxes, which has been stolen. But again, in the law that we rely on, sometimes the courts will tell you, and if there are lawyers here, they can tell us if I am lying. The courts will tell you that we are not going to accept evidence which you got illegally. the evidence you got illegally, including even the intelligence of this country, have known that Meshach has stolen here and here. But because I've not been produced before the court of law and the court has not passed a judgment on me, I am still innocent as Kawive will be. So all of us are allowed to go there and do our thing. So the court will also tell you that that which you are telling us as the head of government is an evidence you got illegally. So it is the court who will order how you get that evidence, and then you bring it back to the court. And this person we are looking for is also in the court watching. So how are we going to actually end this? Because that is now the law. And the law is putting common mwananchi in the middle, where you can't take this guy to the courts and produce the evidence which you have gotten illegally, even though it is evidence, but you have gotten it illegally. So I think that is where I have a problem, because if we can do that, then probably all the hyenas would be behind the bus by now.
Thank you very much, Meshach. I think that was a comment. Yes, down there. We want our thief. That's what Meshach has said. Now the thief is in office. They don't want their thief. Yes, please. Your name?
Thank you. My name is Jason Andrew Njenga, and I'm from Stare Boys and a fourth former. So I had a comment on what one of the panel had said. A member of the panel had pointed out. You talked about taking a goat to a court of hyenas. I'm sure somewhere else there is also a court of goats that also exists. So instead of us relying on the parliament every now and then on making legislations which are for our benefits, we can use the popular initiative method, where we ourselves suggest and we legislate it and it becomes a law. So let us not always rely on parliament, and let us not always incline ourselves to the blame games of politicians, this, politicians, that. And also on the matter of regulating the amount of money that the politicians use. I think when we say that we are actually limiting or diminishing our thinking capacity as human beings. As human beings, we should know that our thinking, our thoughts should not be influenced by the amount of money that someone has. So instead of regulating the amount of money someone should use, let us use the civic education. Let us go to the rural areas, deep in the rural areas, and tell them, guys, when someone has money, it doesn't mean that he's good in leadership. It doesn't mean that he's not a thief or something else of that sort. And let us also stop measuring success and leadership skills with the amount of money someone has. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's important, just to highlight the two things he said. The question of civic education. To what extent can we employ the tools of civic education to also help our people understand that there is no direct link between leadership and the kind of money a person has? But also interesting question, and which Kawive should address. The court of goats for goats. Right? So next question, I'll come back to the panel to make comments as we do our closing remarks. Anyone else with any comment, please proceed.
Okay, yeah. Otieno Collins, a member of AOLF and a student at MKU main campus. So mine is not more of a question, but to contribute on the topic. And we have talked about bad money that is used by our politicians, to lure us into voting in a certain way. But again, we always say that how can you blame the windmill without thinking about the wind? You see, we ourselves as the citizens of this country, we are the one who are contributing to the politicians coming with the money so that they can lure us into a certain direction of voting. And I'll say this: you are a politician. You want to vote. You want to vie for a particular seat. Of course, the aspect of money will come up. Why? It is because of the citizens. So, in as much as we are blaming the politician, the citizen also are contributing on the same. Because mimi nitakuvotia tu kwa sababu ulinipatia pesa. Ule mwingine mwenye hata kama ako na ideas, I'll not vote in favor of the other person just because he did not give money. See it with politicians sometimes. They will tell you it is very expensive to campaign because everywhere you go you have to give money. And then now it is expensive to campaign. You have gotten loans. You have taken loans so that you can campaign. When you get this seat, what will be the first thing you do? Of course, you'll have to pay for the loans. That will be the first thing. So we are the people who are contributing of the same. Whether this person will steal or will get that money genuinely, the person will have to settle the loans first. And then the other thing, today, if a certain politician, or let me say a CS from maybe Nyanza has been arrested or questioned for issues of graft and other things, you will find people from Nyanza, they are the ones who are coming to say that no, this person should not be arrested. Why is it? Let us see the questioning of this person. And then the other thing, Ninkimalizia nitasema that the SI unit of man is the brain. When you change the brain, then you change everything. Look where we sit. Look at the chairs we sit. Is it not a product of man? Look at the mics we use. Is it not a product of man? And man including the woman. So let us change the brain of man. And we start by the youth. We say that they are the leaders of tomorrow. But even when you look at our campaign back in campus, it is based on social, it is based on ethnic grouping. Why is it that I cannot vote for you because you are not a Luo or because you are not a Kikuyu? That should not be the basis of us voting. So let us change our mind first, and then the other things will follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've seen the other hand here, last hand there.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Brittany. I'm a student at Kenyatta University School of Law, and I'm also a member of AYLF. So
What is AYLF?
African Youth Leadership Forum.
Okay.
Yes. So through this organization, obviously we've been empowered as the youth. And you've seen from last year that the youth have come up to speak about the injustices that have been there since the time when we got our independence. So everybody is saying politicians are wrong, even the members of society are wrong, but who takes the time to sit down with this common mananchi, this Wanjiku, to tell them that this is the problem? Even though we say that maybe this Wanjiko will take money from the politician, why is it? It is because this person has no other source of income. This person, at the grassroots level, they are thinking about what I'm supposed to eat tomorrow. Then this person comes here, tells me, let me give you 1,000 shillings, then tomorrow you go vote for me. Me as a person who does not have food for tomorrow, what will I think about? I'll think about my children who are starving with me at night, and then someone comes and gives me 1,000. You think I will not take that 1,000 and vote for them because they gave it to me? I feel like the problem is, as Kenyans, we have been suppressed in a state of poverty. If people had the means to take care of themselves, we would not have the politicians we do have today. If people had jobs, people had ways to take care of themselves and their families, they would not take the money that this politician has. So I say it is a vicious cycle of where, even though this Mwananchi knows this person who has money is not the best leader, but juu amenipatia leo, let me just give him the vote. So I feel like we should empower the people who are at the grassroots level and also give them a way to get money for themselves. It all comes back to them taking care of themselves. I feel like with the politics of today and the youth being part of this politics, as you've seen, the youth, you have given us the way to be educated. You have educated us, and we are, I'd say, more enlightened other than compared to what our parents were given at the time. So with the youth coming in, I feel like civil education should be made part of our schoolwork. As much as we do it in school as a way to pass, we should also make it our way of life in order to make sure that the leaders coming tomorrow will actually make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will take just one last question from the student there. Then I hand it over to the panel to respond as they give their closing remarks.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Isaiah Modime from Stare Boys, and also a fourth former. So for me, I think the problem is Kenyans. First of all, the common man 90. The problem that we have is that, yes, you have identified the problems. From since you can't, you see, from since 1992 till now, we are still having the same leaders. But I'm sure back then in 1992, the same problems were identified. But now the measures, yes, people decided measures, they said we can do this, do that, but not the implementation of the measures. Till now, yes, the problems are there, but the measures needs to be taken more seriously. And also for the person who said about that it has become a social behavior. So I don't think that it's not a social behavior, it's just that, okay, let's say, for example, some upcoming leaders, yes, you see when they are campaigning this, they are still good people. Like they don't get into their seats by money or something like that. But then after some time, you see the behavior changes. This is because you are a new blood, and then you come find the old ways. So and as obvious, there's the people there, they rule. The people rule, let's say the kingpins. You can't just come as a new blood then change what has been there since the old times. So we need to, the change that is coming, the change should come from the top, but also from us, because we can't just, if we elect that one leader, that good leader, he'll go there, but then the people there, he'll be neutralized, his behavior will be changed, and then it won't be of much help to us as the citizens.
Thank you very much. I've seen Oliver walk in, and if Oliver were here when Kawive was giving the story of, as he has said, about the same faces, Oliver likes saying it in every meeting, that the same faces from 1992 until today. It was Ruto in 1992, and now he's the president. It's Raila, now I don't know who Raila is now. It's been everybody. So the same faces. While you're away, I'm just telling you your famous statement. Kawiva just said it. Now I've been reminded of time that we have another session. So I would like then to request. So two things we'll be doing. Request the panel members, all of them, to take a minute, because most of these things were just comments and contributions. If there's one that you want to highlight, pick it up and say what you need to say as we close, and then just give you a closing remark and a call to action. Then we'll do a photo session with everybody. So then I'll request the panel to come down, and then the cameramen and women will come here, and we all take a photo, all of us standing, and then the panel will come back, we take a photo, the panel members only. So I start with Sam.
Okay, thank you. I think for me, I'll be very brief. I think we are speaking about the same thing. When we talk about the leaders and the fact that maybe we are saying we are the problem, or our leaders are the problem, I think we are forgetting that our leaders come from the society that we are in. So they are our creation. We have created these leaders. And for me, even as a parting shot, I think for me what I would say is it possible for us to create leaders from our own circles? If I can see a group of women there, is it possible for you to support one of you who you see has the capacity, has the capability, is equal to task, has the integrity and all that? Because what we are doing, yes, I know we have new leaders coming up, or we have new people coming up, but majority of the leaders we have, they come from our communities. They are not new people. They are people we have elevated at different stages. There's no way we are going to end the challenges we have if we want to give you an MCA, you want to give someone the position of an MCA, yet you give them very simple tasks to lead. Simple tasks. It could be your church, it could be your village project, but they have over time brought all the projects you have handed them, or you have handed over to them down. You don't expect much if you empower them to become MCAs, MPs. So my challenge to you would be, is it possible to create people within our spaces who are able to pick up the leadership position, even at the lowest level, and we elevate them based on what we are seeing what would require of our society, because then it also becomes cheap. If you have a woman within your group, it becomes easier to come together, support them, sell their agenda within the community and whatever good that they have done. And you are able to now have a bigger representation or a bigger following to elevate that person to the different levels. So that would be the challenge for me that I would throw to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kawive, please.
I don't know where Meshach has gone, because I wanted to tell him this is not about whataboutism. He said that civil society doing the same thing that politicians do. Civil society is defined as a public benefit society or organization. So we benefit the public. These others are public service. It's a requirement. You cannot compare civil society with government. No. Government is using our money. Civil society gets the money from wherever they get it. But these ones have got a responsibility of providing services. So that whataboutism must end. The young man from Stare, the one talks about the court of goats for goats. I want to get your name, because I'll drop a book in your name for you later after this. So the point is, we have tried that, and that is what the Mau Mau struggle was about saying mzungu aende, sisi wa Africa we can get our own court, a goat court. That was what independence was about. But immediately after independence, hiyo court yote ikaingia mafisi, hawajaitoka. We tried in 2010. Even that constitution, the way it was written was very good. Kwanza ilisema kwamba mtu kama amedhaniwa kuwa mfisadi hataruhusiwa kuingia kwenye kinyang'anyiro cha kisiasa kama ajaenda kotini akamaliza masuala yake yote. When that clause went to parliament, because parliament had to come in, na ni mafisi wetu tu, we have tried to avoid them, tukashindwa. When they went there, they changed the clause, and today it reads Article 104. It reads, mtu kama amedhaniwa kuwa mfisadi atakatazwa kuwania kiti cha kisiasa ila mpaka amalize njia zote za kujitetea. So fisi wakafungua mlango. So we have tried that. It's just a question of like we have not been able to get the goats to a goat court as a country. That's what ninasema, tutafute njia ya kuondoa hii clique ya watu wamejiweka kwa electric fence, because that is the question we must deal with. Hii electric fence tutazima aje power ndio fisi watoke, tuingize mbuzi hapo, mbuzi apewe hukumu na mbuzi wenzake. That is the point. That is the point of this, and that's what the youth were doing last year, saying hii bunge hao watu wako hapa wanaserve tumbo zao, twende huko tuwarushe nje. What did the government do? They killed the youth. So ile koti ya fisi ikaendelea kunawiri, ndipo hizo vitu zingine zote zikarudishwa. This is the struggle that we are having as a country. This is the struggle that we had from when Kenya was a company in 1895 until now. Your framework of governance has never changed. The big money, mkubwa ako karibu na wakubwa, anapata rasilimali ya pesa, anapata kiti, anapata ushauri. Kisha nyinyi wengine ambao mko hapa mnakubali, either you agree what I say or I deal with you. That frame has not changed. That is what our challenge should be. How do we change that frame of governance? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kawive. Derek?
Thank you very much. I'll start with Brittany. She gave an example of how desperate poverty people are, and a politician coming to give them 1,000 shillings during the campaign period. It actually happens a lot in one of the poor counties in the Coast region. There is a former governor who would disappear for 5 years, and very close to the election, he would come back and give every person 1,000 shillings. So you can imagine a household of extreme poverty, say the household has 4 adults, and everyone is given 1,000 shillings, and they go back home and suddenly they have 4,000 shillings in a household, which spends maybe 50 or 100 shillings a day. That is a big thing, and it skews their decision making. For me, the main issues are accountability. We need to know where the money is coming from. And that accountability will be very important in the effectiveness and efficiency of this elected individual to do their work. As Marcus said, like an MP, you're supposed to do representation, oversight, and legislation. If I am, for instance, an MP somewhere, supported by a contractor, maybe someone who has a construction company, has paid for the campaign, and this MP is elected, and say this MP, and it has happened in some places, you find a constituency has a clinic, for instance. A clinic was already constructed. That clinic does not have doctors. But this person who was elected was supported by someone with a construction company. Do you think they will prioritize getting doctors to those facilities or building a new clinic? Obviously, it's building a new clinic because the person they are representing is not the citizen, but the person who facilitated their campaign. And it happens a lot. So that is very important. The last one for me is use of public resources. And this is a big thing, especially by incumbents who campaign into office. If I am paying my taxes, I know my taxes need to go to public services. I don't want to see my taxes on a helicopter going to campaign for votes in some part of the country. And we see a lot of campaigns, incumbents, they use public resources to facilitate their campaigns. I hardly doubt if some of them even use their own money. So the use of public resources, accountability, and the economics of poverty are a big thing. Isaiah talked about solutions. We know the solutions. Implementing them sometimes is difficult. We need to do reflection. We need to vote the right leaders into office. We need to call them to account. But it's not easy, but I am positive we will get there. Thank you, Marcus.
I think it's important for us also to remember that wananchi wote hawana ujuzi ama uelewa sawa. They do not have the same understanding. So what is required is that the government must conduct civic education. Na hiyo iko kwa sheria ya IBC. Na iko kwa sheria kwa Ministry of Devolution, for example. But let me tell you, for civic education to be conducted, there has to be money. From 2013 until now, the National Treasury in the budget estimates does not have a vote for educating people. There is no vote. So IEBC will not do civic education. The government will not do civic education. So they also start saying we go to Oliver in Uraia, I don't know which donor to give us money for civic education. Well, it is their responsibility to ensure there is money to educate citizens on civic engagement and citizens' rights. So until a government starts educating its people, tutakaa hapa kwa muda. Because even the money from donors and from civil society is not enough to reach everyone. But the government can deploy resources to do that. I have started a campaign myself of saying, can the treasury put a vote head kwa pesa inaitwa civic education? Sinaweka ya hospitali, waweke ya civic education hapo. I've not succeeded in 10 years, but I want you to join me so that we start campaigning for money to educate people, our mothers, fathers, and children in the villages and in wherever, in the slums and wherever, so that we get education on what is happening. What is the government doing? What is the plan for elections? And IEBC, you wait, 2027 January, wanasema wana pesa ya civic education. It has happened 4 times already in my count. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So guys, I would like to thank all of you for participating in this discussion. I would like then, as we conclude our discussion, there were these posters that TIA gave us. So there is an integrity walk on the 27th of September this year here at Uhuru Park. So TI invites all of us, please mark the date, 27th of September 2025, beginning at 7, ending at 2 p.m. 27th of September 2025, here at Uhuru Park, beginning at 7 a.m. and ending at 2 p.m. We are all invited to come to Uhuru Park on that day. So guys, as we conclude, because then we know the impact of money in politics, we know the power. Since we are the Mbuzis using the example that we have been given, we can reclaim our power back as we use our various platforms like the social media platform. Let us mulika guys who are misusing like public resources, guys who are using dirty money. We can demand accountability from our various many spaces that we're using. So I would like them to thank you very much for listening, for contributing, for participating, and let the dialogue continue. Thank you very much. So we want to do photo session. I would like then, I've been advised because of time, let's just have the panel line up here, and then we move down, we all take photos. Please don't go. We have the photos so you guys can come. We take a photo here in front, then we all stand, arise, then we take photo up down there.
All right. So just step forward. So take this photograph and then tusimame wote tafadhali. So we take this and then they come down, we take one. Sawa? Just come down. In the meantime, asanteni sana panelists, asante sana Marcus. Okay. So tunapiga picha hapa. Fanya inua mkono juu.
Well, indeed, the conversation right here at the People Dialogue Festival continues at the Uhuru Park with various villages engaging in different topics, and that village right there was discussing on the issue of how money is used in politics in Kenya, and you've definitely been witnessing and hearing what Kenyans and the panelists had to say about that. But we also remember concurrently happening alongside that village, or rather that conversation, other villages with other conversations. And today primarily the people who've availed themselves around this place are students, and I've been able to identify a couple of them who will join me right here and tell us probably what they've been picking from the conversations right here, and whether the questions they have in regards to the governance of this country, especially in the context of being of democracy and multipartyism, made sense to them. Welcome very much to K24. I'll request you to be joining me here. Both of you come on this end, please. Just stand here. I'll start with you. From the conversations you've witnessed, the sittings that you've sat in, what are some of the things that you'd say have stood out for you, or rather remain a concern for you?
So my name is Miriam Wanjiku from M-Pesa Foundation Academy, and this is my second time attending PDF. I was here last time, but one thing that's still confusing me, or rather a concern to me, is whether this country is led by democracy or is led for the democracy that is set from the people of Kenya. You see, we say democracy is the rule of people, by the people, for the people. But when you look at the reality, it's not that way. Like, it's different. When you speak of transparency and accountability in government, that's not what is happening. And so my concern remains, are we having leaders or politicians? And that is why we're not able to be accountable, because, you see, a politician is there and demands for leadership, but a leader earns leadership. Yeah, so that's something that I've picked out, and I've also picked out that we have leaders, or rather most of the leaders in this country are led by politics, and that's an issue because we cannot have politicians being leaders. Yes, thank you.
All right, allow me to engage another student right here. Start by telling us your name, then what you picked from the various villages that you've been able to attend.
So my name is Bramwell Amira from the M-Pesa Foundation Academy. And I'm glad, one thing that I'm glad about is that the youth are now able to engage in such discussions, in such various discussions, and raise their questions, as well as talking about what they feel like, how the future should look like. And as well as, you know, what I've learned about leadership is that being a leader, you must also engage your people and ensure that at some point you get to receive some form of feedback. But if you look at the active leadership, I think we need more feedback from the people, especially the youth have a lot to say, because they are the future of today. They are the future of they are the future of this country. So let us ensure that we engage them. And at this point, I think it's crucial that it is crucial to ensure that the current government engages every generation. Yeah.
All right. I can see you are raising your hand here. Is something you want to say?
Yeah, I also believe that one thing I'm told to speak to the government of right now. I can say that Mr. Politician or Miss Politician, whoever you might call yourself, this country needs people who listen. You see, we have leaders. Yes, we have very good leaders who stand out in development and all that, but then we don't have people who listen. We have people who hear. You see, listening is different from hearing. So we need people who can listen to us and lead us in the right way, you see. Yeah, so that's my part in short.
Thank you very much. And also allow me to engage one of the panelists who was leading the discussion. Thank you for your time. Who was leading the discussion right in there when we talk about financing in this country. Welcome to, this is K24. And when we talk about, regulating the money flow in terms of into the political scene, especially during campaigns in this country, what do you think that means to the democracy of this country?
I think removing the money factor from elections is very important, because we've seen that the influence of money makes sure that, or makes citizens not to choose wisely who becomes their leaders. But we must agree that from 1974 until now, we have lost the game. Even the Constitution provides a law for regulation of campaigns. IEBC, they never developed regulations in time, and when it develops, they are not passed by Parliament. This law or this regulation is supposed to make the fight for representation seats even. Everybody, whether you have 20 shillings or you have 2 million, you're supposed to be equal. That's what the law is supposed to make. But then that does not happen, because there are people who have got vested interests. There are people who have got vested interest in maintaining power, and that's where the problem is. That is why even today, right now, even there is the law in 2017 it was suspended for 1 year, the Elections Campaign Financing Act. Then in 2022, IBC developed guidelines. They were not passed. So there is a law which is not working, because nobody wants campaigns to be capped, the money for campaigns to be capped. Why? It is the only way they can use money to determine who becomes a leader, as opposed to ideas, as opposed to the integrity of people. So capping this money, getting campaign financing sorted will in a very big way improve our democracy. If we don't sort it, and let me tell you, it won't be sorted by Parliament, it will not be sorted by IEBC. So Kenyans have to look for a way. I don't know as of now how we're going to do this. But from 1974 until now, we have not been able. So we will have to look for a way of sorting this campaign financing, demonetizing campaigns, making sure that money does not count. You know, there's money that you can use to walk around, and then there's money that you can use to bribe people to vote for you. It's the bribe bit that has to be there. So that we say everybody should go for a campaign in a vehicle, not in an aeroplane. So don't have people campaigning that, because those are the disparities. That's what makes people steal. That's what makes people be corrupt, so that they can access resources that will destabilize the voting patterns. Thank you.
During the discussion, something came up that indeed we've had a culture where for every gathering of people, they have to go home with something, and that is what brings the demands during the election window. Is it something that can be done away in the Kenyan culture?
The reason why people demand to be given something are several. Number one, they do not have something. There are no opportunities for jobs, so people are broke. People have not paid school fees for their children. People are hungry. People have not gone to hospital. And where is the money for those services? It is with the politicians. So when they come in their sleek cars, we must demand they give us part of our money. That is why there is if people, hospitals were free and accessible, if people were able to get quality education, if people were able to have food that is sufficient and satiating for them, nobody will require money. So right now, for example, I cannot bribe you because you are working and you have your money. So if I have to say here, I'll give you 100 for you to sit in the sun, you will refuse. You will look for an alternative, something that's, but if you are idle, don't have anything, you will stay. So those are very important things that we do. It is, Kenyans are not being given essential social services. So they are desperate to get any little thing that comes their way.
All right, thank you very much for your input, and let's keep engaging more people who are coming right here. I can see more students right here, the youngest of Gen Zs and the oldest of Gen Alphas. Probably just to start with your names, then tell us what is standing out for you from the various villages where you have probably attended these conversations. I'll start from here.
Yes, my name is Isaiah Mwadime, and I'm a Form 4.
Yes, what stood out for you?
As here?
Yes.
For me, it's about the political section and the politics in the country. It's about how right now the people are looking at their problems, the views. Say for now, we have been told that in 1992 we had the same leaders, and still right now we have the same leaders. So we are looking at the problems from then till now. How comes we still have the same leaders? Yet during that whole time, the problems that are the problems that are there are still the same. The solutions that are being made, the implementations the same, but we're still having the same problem. So we are looking for a way on how to improve the sector and make at least the politics of the country better.
All right. Interesting. And for you, I'll ask a different question. You are very young. What would interest you in the politics of this country?
Politics, maybe engaging more of youths to come together and maybe creating leaders of our own. Like for example, we have been, as he has said, we have been having the same leaders who are very old. Like how come somebody from 60 years comes to continue the same rule that he started in 1992? We should embrace like the young leaders to come, maybe from ourselves, come and then be able to lead us. Yeah.
Thank you. Join us, tell us your name and what stood out for you.
Thank you. My name is Jason Andrew Njenga, and I'm from Starehe Boys and a fourth former. What stood out for me in the political dialogue village is where one of the panel members said that we should not take a goat into a court of hyenas, therefore we should chase away the hyenas. So I was not in support of that, because the hyenas will obviously be hesitant and strongly reluctant to leave that court. Therefore we should make another court of goats and take that goat to the court of goats, and that is where he will be served justice. So in connection to what was said, or the relevance of what was being meant over there, is that we should embrace the use of popular initiative. It shouldn't just always be the parliamentary initiative, just always parliamentarians, whenever they want to reject, they reject it. No, we should always embrace the use of popular initiative, and we will now be able to instigate the laws and legislate them that actually benefit us as citizens, since we all know our problems on the grassroots. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. And indeed, more and more people continue to participate in this conversation, cutting across all ages. Thank you very much for your time, cutting across all ages and genders as well. So allow me to engage one of the visitors in this place right here. You can introduce yourself here and tell us what coming to this place means for you personally.
My name is Win Joroge. Maendeleo ya wanawake. My party is the Kwanza, the governing government. When I came to this place, I just wanted to know more about politics and about how we can change in engaging ourselves with the politicians. And I have learned a lot of it, and we can change if we want to change. We can even make our youth to change, because when it comes to when it comes to when we are doing nearing to election,
yes,
that is the most important thing for us to understand. The people we are bringing in to manage our country. And this time around, I don't know what we are going to do, because we need change. Because when they come with money, when they are doing their their campaign, they come with money. And because our people are not empowered, we take this money and then we select the bad people. But to my understanding, I know, like me, I said, I'm a maendeleo ya wanawake, and I was doing campaign when we were doing the election for grassroots for UDA. From the polling station, ward up to constituency, I was elected, but I did not use money. So I believe if we are talking now, we can just elect people without giving us money. And what we need to do to these people who are coming to us to ask us for supporting them, we want them to know that we have people behind us. Let us them empower these people without even giving handouts. Let us have a project where our people can do something and they can get money. I think things can be better that way.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you for your contribution right here in regards to this topic. Thank you for your time. Well, indeed, the conversations right here continue in the various villages, and we'll continue broadcasting this later in our right here on K24 TV. But for now, allow me to take you to KICC, where joining us will be Brian Amwai, where we are expecting an announcement to be made from ODM, or rather Azimio Premier Raila Odinga is expected to be making some announcement after a series of wide consultations from various parts of the country and from various parts of members of his party as well, including the leadership. And so all eyes are headed there.
Niambie kama wametoa.